Regarded as one of the greatest screen actors of all time, he gave wonderful performances time and time again.
Why don't you tell me what happened?
In dramas, comedies, or adventures.
Hey, look. Manuel is in town.
He was often the ordinary man, pushed into extraordinary circumstances.
I saw something that didn't belong to me and I took it.
As an actor, he made it all look easy, even while gaining Hollywood's highest honors. He is the one and only Spencer Tracy. He was born Spencer Bonaventure Tracy on April 5, 1900, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. After spending years honing his craft on stage, Hollywood beckoned and Spence made the trip west. He became a leading man almost at once, signing a contract at 20th Century Fox. There, Tracy headlined such films as the tough prison picture, 20,000 Years in Sing Sing in 1932.
Imagine a motion picture in which every scene is the big headlight of some colorful career that has made headline history. A picture that condenses the most dramatic moments from hundreds of sensationally dramatic lives into a single evening's entertainment. Such a picture is 20,000 Years in Sing Sing, with Spencer Tracy and Betty Davis.
You go out and grab yourself a square guy, see? A guy that works for a living, that can give you a home and kids and happiness, all that kind of stuff.
I don't want anybody but you. Ever.
Just a troublemaking broad. You're not gonna get a chance to squawk.
She ain't gonna squawk. And neither am I. Yeah, it's me. And I got here just in time to rub you out, you dirty scum. I'm taking you back.
Tracy was not happy at Fox, and in 1935, he made the move to MGM. Spence debuted for the studio in the title role of the Murder Man. In this sharp thriller, Tracy played a reporter who stays one step ahead of the cops solving homicides.
Why don't you give up this racket, too? It's no good. Not for a swell girl like you. Why don't you get yourself a nice husband and get married? And then you'll have problems of your own, see? You won't have to worry about other people's.
Thanks for the advice.
I'd like to think of you as being happy, Mary.
There isn't anything you'd care to do about it. Personally, is there? Steve, what have you told him?
Mary, what are you doing here?
Oh, please don't believe him. He's been drinking. He doesn't know what he's saying.
Go on with your story, Steve.
Nothing was too low. Nothing was too contemptible for you to do. Listen to me, Mander. I've got nothing but sympathy for every man in that death house. There isn't anything in the world I wouldn't do for him. But not for you, Mander, because you've got it coming. But I'm not a murderer.
Much happier at his new home, Tracy would stay at MGM for the next 20 years. He saw better quality roles right away, taking the lead in the hard-hitting drama Fury. The film, which co-starred Sylvia Sidney and Walter Abel, was acclaimed German director Fritz Lang's American debut. A powerful indictment of mob violence, the story followed Tracy as he is blamed for a crime he didn't commit. Next, the actor appeared in two of MGM's most successful 1936 productions. Libeled Lady was a hilarious screwball comedy that teamed Spence with William Powell, Myrna Loy, and Jean Harlow. In the film, Tracy played a newspaper editor who publishes an untrue rumor about the wealthy Loy. To avoid a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, Tracy and Powell go to great lengths to make sure the libel turns out to be true.
I tell you, I can't go now. The paper's in the jam. We're facing a libel suit.
Well, you're facing a breach of promise suit. If you don't want to marry me, just say so.
Glad you're getting yourself all upset, darling. Over here, a little drinky, maybe.
No, not today I don't. Today I get married.
Gladys, do you want me to kill myself?
Did you change your insurance?
Would I ask you to do this thing for me if I didn't consider you practically as my wife?
Well, would you ask your wife to hook up with that ape?
The ape objects. They're married, all right.
Oh, but that's arson.
You mean it's bigamy?
Well, what a story. Constance Allenbury marries bigamist.
If you publish that, you'll have another libel suit on your hands. I'm not a bigamist.
You married me, didn't you?
Well, say, I wouldn't quite dispute, Gladys, if she were the last female on Earth. Female, huh? That's just... You can't stand there and insult Gladys. You know, you've had this coming for a long time, Sheriff. Yes, and I've been looking forward. We'll settle it right now.
With interest.
Yeah.
Tracy's other 1936 success was San Francisco, an expansive drama about the events leading up to the 1906 earthquake. Clark Gable headlined the film as a gambler in love with singer Jeanette MacDonald.
Here's the answer you can take to your boss, Jack Burley.
Spence provided spiritual guidance as Clark's buddy, a priest.
She's not going out there.
I've stood for this song-singing blather of yours for years and never squawked. But you can't bring it in here. This is my joint.
She's not going out there.
The stars made the most of the dramatics before the earth-shaking finale overshadowed them all. The film was a big hit for MGM, and Tracy received an Oscar nomination for his heavenly performance. Next for Spence was 1937's Captains Courageous, a fine adaptation of the Rudyard Kipling novel. Freddie Bartholomew starred as the spoiled brat who learns about life from a Portuguese fisherman, played by Tracy. During the making of the film, Spence had a miserable time, convinced he was doing the worst job of his career. Practically everyone else disagreed. Despite the improbable casting, Tracy excelled as the brave, honest man of the sea, mastering a Portuguese accent and even singing a tune or two.
There's a place in my heart for the one I love best, and I still keep...
For his efforts, he was awarded the Oscar as Best Actor of the Year.
Oh, Long Jack, what do you worry about? He admit the whole thing like regular grown fella. He say he's sorry, everything all right now.
Nothing's all right till I beat his ears off. Get on my way.
Jack, you touch that kid, I tear you apart, see?
Yeah?
Me, Manuel talking, I tear you apart, see?
Tracy followed that up with another heralded turn as Father Flanagan, the man who started Boys Town. Based on the real-life home for wayward youths, Flanagan and his young friends got the Hollywood treatment in style. Audiences responded, making the film one of the most popular of the year. His talent was rewarded, and Spence took home a second consecutive Best Actor Oscar for his performance.
There. That's better.
I'm Father Flanagan. I saw your brother Joe just a little while ago. We had a long talk about you, Whitey. Joe wants you to come to Boys Town with me.
If you think you're gonna make a plow jockey out of me, you got another thing coming.
Now, look, Whitey, in a pinch, I can be tougher than you are, and I guess maybe this is the pinch. You're coming with me to Boys Town because that's the way your brother wants it.
Tracy and Clark Gable were paired again in Boomtown, a 1940 drama about the oil rush in Texas.
Hello, big man. Long time no see. You run this outfit?
He's the owner, pal, Mr. Sand.
Tell Mr. Sand he can ram his $50 a day up his nose. I don't need to work.
Hey. Oh, why don't you let me bust him one, boss?
I'd rather have you keep your help.
These on-screen pals found plenty of excitement, drilling for riches while romancing co-stars Claudette Colbert and Hedy Lamarr. Determined to be a leading man on his own, Spence took charge as he led the way through the Northwest Passage.
Men, you've followed me faithfully and without questions, and I want you to know that I appreciate it. And now it's time you should know where we're going. I don't have to tell you who the Abenakis are. Most of you here have lost folks or friends in Indian raids since '57.
No matter right we have.
Well, you'll find their scalps at St. Francis.
This rousing film, directed by King Vidor, showed the hardships of colonial Americans traveling across uncharted territory. In 1941, the star would take on the most famous dual role of all, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Good and evil are so close as to be chained together in the soul. Man is not truly one, but two. Now, supposing we could break that chain, separate those two selves, free the good in man and let it go on to its higher destiny, and segregate the bad. Let it destroy itself in its own degradation.
Good heavens.
Why, Doctor?
The actor elected not to use makeup to aid his transformation. Instead, he relied on his own facial expressions to convey the change.
Did you think that Dr. Jekyll was falling in love with you? You with your cheap little dreams? Or did you think as you looked at him that perhaps in his eyes you saw a bit of me? Hyde. Was that it? No. It's interesting, isn't it?
1942 found Tracy inhabiting the world of John Steinbeck's Tortilla Flat. Teamed with Hedy Lamarr and John Garfield, Spence helped bring a California fishing community to life in this literate film.
You stay away from her. She's a Portuguese girl. Portuguese girls are no good.
Why?
They always want to get married. Come on.
The three stars were in fine form, but Oscar-nominated Frank Morgan stole the show as a faithful dog lover.
I think I remember. St. Francis, he looked at me and smiled like a good saint. And he said, "Be good to little dogs, you dirty man." Did he call you that? Well, I was.
Spence's next picture would team him with the best co-star he would ever find, Katharine Hepburn. In Woman of the Year, Hepburn and Tracy were newspaper reporters who find themselves drawn together despite their differences.
Don't you understand what I mean, Tess? I want to marry you.
Anything happening?
Flat A.
Great.
It was a quick wedding, so the bride could get back to her career.
No one will ever believe we were married sober. How to get lined up for the first inning?
The Senators, Washington will bat first, see, and after they've made 3 outs, then the Yanks will come to bat.
I see. And then they've got to make the same number of outs.
That's right.
She may have been the Woman of the Year, but she didn't win it with her cooking.
Their on-screen romance delighted audiences and critics, and the film's screenplay won a well-deserved Oscar. Off-screen, the couple also became an item, even though Tracy was married. The Tracy-Hepburn match would flourish for years, although Spence, raised as a Catholic, never divorced his wife. In a realistic account of the 1942 bombing of Japan.
Hello? Hello, York? Doolittle. York, I want you to get 24 B-25s with volunteer crews down to Eglin Field as soon as you can. The job will take them out of the country for about 3 months. Tell them it's a secret mission.
A rousing hit, the film also boasted Oscar-winning special effects. Tracy and Hepburn found themselves together again in 1945, but this time it was without love. Kate played a widow with a big house, and Spence was an inventor who needed a place to work. They marry for convenience, and naturally end up falling in love for real.
You never want love in your life again. I never want it in mine. But our reasons are as different as the sun is from the moon. You don't want it because you've had all the worst of it. I don't want it because I've had all the best. And then there's all that, you know, what you call that powerful commodity to be put to you, so I thought...
So you thought...
So I wondered if maybe you'd like to marry me.
Mrs. Rowan, you're nuts.
Hepburn and Tracy re-teamed in 1947 for Sea of Grass, a drama that also starred Robert Walker and Melvyn Douglas.
I love you very much, Colonel.
You kind of took advantage of me. You know that, don't you, Mrs. Bruton?
That's what an advantage is for.
It better look like you or I'll drown it.
The stars weren't too convincing as 19th century pioneers, and Tracy clashed repeatedly with director Elia Kazan.
You're really going to go out in cold blood, shoot the first homesteader that comes over.
That's right.
In cold blood.
If that's what you want to call it.
Don't do it, Jim. Give up on it.
Who are you protecting?
1948's State of the Union was a successful return to form, with Frank Capra directing. TRACEY played an industrial tycoon running for president while trying to keep his integrity.
Now, hang it all. Look here, Mary. I'm not going to have you do this. You wouldn't get one wink of sleep down there on the floor, and I wouldn't sleep lying up here worrying about you.
Good night. Funny world. I want you to be president, so I go back to New York and you tour the country with your wife.
Politics makes strange bedfellows.
You and your mad ambition, catering to his conceit, dealing and double dealing. You were going to make a big man of him, weren't you, Kay? You couldn't see that he was a big man. Well, you killed him. You killed Grant Matthews. And he's a party to his own murder. Well, I won't be.
The winning Hepburn-Tracy combo struck gold again in the uproarious 1949 comedy Adam's Rib. This time, the stars squared off in court.
Adam! What? Don't you dare slam that door.
The script, by Ruth Gordon and Garson Kanin, slayed audiences and received an Oscar nomination.
Besides its laughter, there's a lot of warmth and truth in Adam's Rib. But best of all, it's a happy picture. Spencer Tracy is happy. Katharine Hepburn is happy. And I am happy to tell you how happy you'll be when you see Adam's Rib. Thank you.
Don't you want your rub down? You want a drink? Want anything? What? Oh!
In 1950, Spence took on the title role in the smash hit Father of the Bride.
I always used to think that marriages were simple affairs. Boy meets girl, fall in love, they get married, have babies. Eventually the babies grow up and meet other babies. And they fall in love, get married, and have babies, and so on.
Directed by Vincent Minnelli, the film received Oscar nominations for Best Screenplay and Best Picture.
Well, it's what every girl dreams of. A bridal dress, the orange blossoms, the music. It's something lovely to remember all the rest of her life. And something for us to remember, too.
The stunning Elizabeth Taylor was the one getting married, but Tracy ended up the recipient of all the headaches.
I have to do anything. When the time comes, I'll do everything. I mean, everything.
Oh, I wouldn't go to your wedding. Now, none of your babies.
Ellie, now look here. Look here.
I don't care
Buckley.
for you.
Buckley! Now, look here, young man. If you insist upon a church wedding, you can count me out. I wash my hands of the whole affair.
Tracy had another hit with his next film, the 1954 Western Broken Lands. The star played the head of a vast cattle empire whose sons turn against each other in a battle for the wealth.
Robert Wagner as his half-breed son, who was all man and all courage.
Pull it. Draw and I'll blow your head off.
Richard Widmark as the fierce firstborn son, first to scheme, first to kill.
Did you ever ask me how I'd like an Indian stepmother after Ma died?
You're rich, you're 6 years old, and you're governor of the state.
And who made you the governor of the state?
Everything would change me. Then maybe I will. Maybe I will. I can still pull that chair right out from under you. Maybe I will. There's something I'm going to do first. I'm going to tell my boy that if he wants that girl of yours to take her, he has to pull her out of the house by the hair of her head.
As the 1960s began, Tracy developed a good working relationship with producer-director Stanley Kramer. In Kramer's Inherit the Wind, the true story of the Scopes monkey trial received a dramatic treatment.
God speaks to Brady, and Brady tells the world. Brady, Brady, Brady Almighty!
The Lord is my strength.
Spence was Henry Drummond, the wily lawyer defending a man charged with teaching evolution in the classroom.
I object, I object, I object.
On what grounds? Is it possible that something is holy to the celebrated agnostic?
Yes. The individual human mind.
Tracy and Kramer re-teamed in 1961 for the all-star drama Judgment at Nuremberg.
Before the people of the world,
Let it now be noted that here in our decision, this is what we stand for. Justice, truth, and the value of a single human being.
Suffering from emphysema, Spence struggled to complete his final film, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Starring Academy Award winner Spencer Tracy, Academy Award winner Sidney Poitier, Academy Award winner Katharine Hepburn.
What the hell is going on here? I love your daughter. There is nothing I wouldn't do to try to keep her as happy as she was the day I met her. But it seems to me, without your approval, we will make no sense at all. That is why I'm asking for the clearest possible statement of what your attitude is going to be.
I appreciate that, Doctor. It's almost in the form of an ultimatum.
Until today, I would never have believed that I could say such a thing. But when she fights you, I'm going to be on her side.
At the end of his long illness, Spencer Tracy passed away on June 10, 1967. In a career that contained a wealth of outstanding performances, he made acting look easy.
I love you so very much.
With a simple glance, Spence could say more than most actors expressed with pages of dialogue. Adored by his peers, he defined screen acting, setting a standard that has never been topped.
Well, there's one thing only about us hooking together that's what I call a plenty long shot.
Nothing wrong with a long shot.
If you come out on top.
Hollywood will always remember Spencer Tracy.